Hey folks, Ranger here, and I'm back again with kind of a special review because, this week will mark my 21st birthday. So, yeah, I'm growing pretty old, a bit too old actually. Yeah, but regardless, so I thought I'd review on a model that holds some sentimental value to me, and what you're looking at right here is the Schleich 2017 Brachiosaurus. Yep, one of my more personal favorite models in my collection, and for some sentimental reasons, which I'll get into. But before then, let's go over some facts. So, Brachiosaurus, meaning arm lizard, was a sauropod dinosaur that lived during North America during the late Jurassic, 154 to 150 million years ago. Now its name arm lizard is in reference because its frontal legs are actually a bit longer than the hind legs, as opposed to other sauropods where all four legs are equal in length, meaning Brachiosaurus had some different proportions, especially compared to other sauropods in its environment. Now, it lived during the Morrison Formation and would have lived with a bunch of animals, including other sauropods, including Camarasaurus, Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, Diplodocus, other creatures such as Camptosaurus and Stegosaurus, and predators such as Allosaurus, Saurophagonax, and Torvosaurus. So, a plethora of creatures to say the least. And of course, Brachiosaurus is a pretty well-known sauropod in pop culture, as it rose in fame thanks to the first Jurassic Park film as the first dinosaur shown in the movie. And then it got more popular with more media popping out here and there, and got a resurgence in the recent Jurassic World films. So yeah, so with that being said, let's go on with the model. So Schleich as a company. So I want to say that Schleich, depending on how you look at it, can be a bit of a hit or miss company. I personally like Schleich with some of their models, though I can definitely say that some models have kind of seen better days, to say the least. But I can say that the Brachiosaurus is definitely one of my favorites, and as I said, has sentimental value to me because this was the first dinosaur figure slash model that I started collecting. So this was the one model that helped me start collecting dinosaur models, whether it be Safari, Papo, PNSO, and along, of course, with the Jurassic World stuff. So, so I kind of have a lot of thanks to this model to help me, get the urge to collect dinosaur models. So, yeah, so that's why, I'm doing this somewhat as a special review in occasion for my birthday because, well, this was the first dino model I started collecting. So, yeah. So I've heard that some iffy things about this model, but in my opinion, I really do think this model holds up, despite some inaccuracies, which we'll get into. And we'll actually start with the head. So let's get this guy into frame. The head. Zoom in a bit. Make sure the quality is good. There we go. Right, so starting with the head sculpt. Now, the head sculpt in particular is really well detailed. However, we should address the elephant in the room. So as most of us know, the head of Brachiosaurus, particularly in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, and some other Brachiosaurus depictions in media, is actually using the head of a different sauropod, Giraffatitan. The reason why was because before it was thought that Giraffatitan was an African species of Brachiosaurus. And if you guys know anything about sauropod fossils, they know that heads are somewhat rare to find and reconstruct. So they were kind of going off what sort of material they have. Although as time goes on, paleontologists later reclassified Titan as its own separate species aside from Brachiosaurus. So basically, this Brachiosaurus has a Titan head, which is very akin to other Brachiosaurs and other depictions. So yeah, so might as well get that out said and out of the way. So, but despite that, the head itself is still well sculpted. And here comes another inaccuracies. So yeah, another inaccuracy that I should point out is the placement of the nostrils. Now, sauropods have now been reclassified because, as you can see, the sauropods are more or less closer in the forehead. So originally, the original hypothesis for sauropods was that because of their larger size, paleontologists thought that there would be more or less water-based creatures, as shown in way older movies and paleo art. However, again, as time has gone over, it turns out that sauropods were more or less land-dwelling animals, and their nostrils went in place around, where the actual nose would have been, right here. And so yeah, so those are like the two inaccuracies I wanted to point out when it comes to the model, and a lot of which does come with the head. But I'll get more or less into my personal opinion on that design choice. And also I should mention that my model has seen better days because when I was younger, I unfortunately dropped my Brachiosaur on this side of the head on the floor, and with sort of its harder plastic, it left a big scuff on, the notch on the head notch here. So, I eventually patched that up with, with a black Sharpie, and especially around the nose here also, since this also got a little scuffed up. So, yeah, so basically call my Brachiosaurus a little bit more customized. But I actually really like what I did because it adds my Brachiosaur a little bit of character, and I like to think that this is more or less a more intimidating male with a black comey up front. So, yeah. But anyway, so regardless of the inaccuracies and sort of beating my model has, the actual model itself has some really nice details all around. Like, you can really make out on all the nice scoots and scales that Schleich individually picked out. Like, that's actually really well done. Then, of course, we got the teeth, a bit more flatter since, of course, it's an herbivore, but also because, since it's a kid's toy, so they wouldn't hurt any kids, of course. But so, we got nice scale details around the head. And you see this sort of detail go around, the upper portion of the body, while the lower portion, as we can see here, is a bit more wrinkly and elephant-like. So an interesting design choice, but I think it actually works. So yeah, we can see the nice wrinkles and skin folds. What I really like is how individual skin folds have small streaks of blackish paint that go around. I'm not sure if this is some sort of dry brushing or something like that, but I think it's a nice design choice. And then as we reach this portion of the neck here, it starts to fading into this creamy, lighter creamer color on the belly of the Brachiosaurus. And you can see all the nice wrinkles and muscle movement that you see around here, especially around this area. You can see some nice wash going around the chest here, and then around the belly here also. We also see the Lego information Schleich. So yep, so nice brushing going around here to help enhance the detail of the belly. Really nicely done. And of course, like some companies usually like to add the cloaca, or the opening of where the poop and everything else comes out. But Schleich didn't add this, which is understandable since, this is, unlike Safari and Collect, they're a bit more of a stylish company when it comes to their dinosaurs, and are typically more or less seen a little bit more kid-friendly, to say the least. But yeah, so overall nice details with the belly here, nicely done. Now move up with this portion of the neck. I will admit that it is a little frustrating how there isn't exactly a proper blend on this green moving in with the cream color, as it is a little abrupt, but it's really no big deal in my opinion. So yeah, like I said, we have nice details running down the upper portion of the dinosaur. So we can see nice pebbly scales going around. Yep, really nicely done. And I also like how there's a hint of dry brushing on these scales. It's a bit more of a lighter green on the scales. So really nicely done there. You can see the nice dry brushing and bigger scales moving along onto the upper portion, like I said. And it does have the scales do have portion where it's a bit more noticeable, where you can kind of see that it starts with the head right here, then it moves along the shoulder like that, and then along this lower leg right here, reaching all the way at the tail. Some pointing out how Schleich should have covered the scales all the way instead of the more wrinkly skin, but I'm not sure. I think it gives a good character to this model, and because what I like to think of it is that these larger scales that this Brachiosaurus would have would kind of help be sort of a defensive mechanism, as the harder scale would be a little bit more tougher for predators to chow down on. So that's sort of my own take on it. So that's just me. So yeah. Then of course we got the nice legs here. Now, like I said, Brachiosaurus got its name because the front legs are a bit more longer than the lower legs. So this is sort of a strange proportion for other sauropods during the Morrison formation, because Brachiosaurus itself was a pretty large animal. So if I can actually read the facts again, sorry folks. Yeah, sorry. It would have been from 59 to 72 feet tall, from the legs to, of course, the head. So, definitely a pretty big animal, to say the least, especially when compared to other sauropods, which I will show a little bit later when I do the comparisons, where Brachiosaurus had a more upward position. This would help Brachiosaurus eat higher tree leaves, to say the least. So yeah, so this would kind of explain why the front legs are longer than the back legs. So thought I'd point that out. Then of course we got the legs themselves. Again, we got some nice skin folds with the muscle moving. And nicely done. We got some nice details on the calves, or whatever you call them. And then we got the feet themselves. Again, nice wash going along the legs. Then we got the feet. Now luckily, Schleich actually did an accurate thing with the feet, where the front feet of Brachiosaurus only had claws on the only had one claw right here, while the rest is a bit more of a fleshy foot. Whereas, older depictions of Brachiosaurus and other sauropods would have had, all the claws, would have, all claws or hooves, like claws on each toe. But turns out their feet more or less look like this. So, kudos to Schleich. And the same thing goes for the back legs, although I think the back legs had a bit more claws right here. So we got 1, 2, 3 claws on each of the of the backwards or lower legs and feet, while 2 of them didn't have claws. So kudos for Schleich for paying attention a little bit to accuracies. And again, we can see nice details running along, the legs here, a bit more wrinkly, elephant-like, to go along with the nice dry brushing or wash that whatever Schleich used. So really nicely done here. Of course, we got the nice beefy body all around. Yep, this definitely Brachiosaurus for sure. Since, another fun fact is that Brachiosaurus would have spent a lot of its time eating on leaves and other vegetation, meaning it spent a lot of its life chowing down. Since one of my favorite lines from any sort of dinosaur video or educational video or documentary is that the size of Brachiosaurus would have been a defensive mechanism. Yep, kind of sounds badass if you ask me. So yeah. Then of course we got, more or less the scoots again. The bigger scoots on the upper body with some nice dry brushing. Really nicely done. Then we get into the tail, and the tail itself, has, the same, nice wrinkly skin, although it's a little bit more minimal when it comes to the wrinkles and the dry and the wash. As you can see that the sort of blackish wash is kind of fading. Oh, camera it's not focusing. There we go. So yeah, the wash is kind of fades out. Then of course we got the nice curl of the tail here. Here, you can see my tail is starting to lose a bit of paint, but it's no big deal in my opinion. So yeah, and I overall really love how this Brachiosaurus is a bit more curvy, if that makes sense. So if I can get this into a good frame, yeah, you can see how the model is in a more curved position, which I do believe could be a bit more. I believe that the animal may have done this sort of pose, although I think the tails on dinosaurs in general was a bit stiffer than originally thought. So I think maybe the tail would have been more of a straightforward position. But, for a model from a company that, more or less like to do stylistic choices with dinosaurs, I think Schleich did a good job. Is it 100% accurate? Not really, especially with the head area. But I think it is. I did get a sense that they're both trying with accuracy, but at the same time, they were kind of trying to appeal with, what the public sees in a Brachiosaurus, despite, the Gravititan head, as I mentioned. But as someone like me who, who has respect for both accurate and, of course, the more fictional dinosaurs like we see in Jurassic Park, I'm definitely happy with this model. And I think this model would be a good substitute if you don't have any room like me for any of the bigger legacy collection sauropods, like, both like the Brachiosaurus and Patasaurus and Dreadnoughtus. Those guys, whoo boy. So I think, models like these would be pretty good substitute. You'd like to be a bit more on the 6-inch, 7-inch scale range. So yeah, so I think this model is pretty acceptable in my book. If you're someone who is really nitpicky about scientific accuracy, this may not be the right model for you. But if you're someone who likes fantasy dinosaurs and scientific dinosaurs, I think you'll still like this one. But anyway, so since there is no articulation, let us get into with the comparison. So as I mentioned, I would kind of discuss a little bit more about sauropod proportion, and that here we have the the Safari. I think this is also 2017. The Safari 2017, Diplodocus. Correct me if this model was 2017 or some other year. I kind of lost track. But yeah, so we can see both these models one together, and I think this may be an accurate size. I do know that Diplodocus in general was definitely one of the longest dinosaurs discovered, especially with the reclassification of Seismosaurus being Diplodocus. So yeah, so anyway, so here we can kind of see a different body plan when compared to other sauropods when compared to Brachiosaurus. So Diplodocus is a bit more or less lower to the ground with its neck and overall body proportion, while Brachiosaurus is a bit more upwards. As I said before, Brachiosaurus would more or less at a higher tree leaves, while other sauropods like the Diplodocus may have eaten lower branches and probably even some leaves off the ground. So, you know, definitely some interesting proportions that, you know, sauropods have one-on-one. I mean, in general, sauropods definitely had a body plan like the Diplodocus here, but, you know, it's Brachiosaurus that has an interesting body plan. I think Titan has a body plan like this also. I'm not entirely sure, but if anyone kind of knows a bit more, leave a comment down below. So moving on with the comparison, we already got the Diplodocus here, but we also got another sauropod. Here we have the my custom Safari older Apatosaurus. I think this may have been part of the Carnegie collection. I think. I'm not entirely sure, but this is an older Safari one. I customized this one to be more or less an albino Apatosaurus. So yeah, so we can see, you know, three more the well-known three sauropods during the Morrison formation. And I think they look pretty good next to each other. Again, I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate in terms of scaling here, but I think overall in terms of display presence, I think this speaks a lot of, you know, value if you want to, you know, pair up, you know, sauropods together. And then comparing it with another Morrison herbivore, here we have the Safari 2007 Stegosaurus. Put him right here. A bit more closer. Yep, I think the Stegosaurus looks pretty good next to these guys. And then, of course, what is, you know, sauropods and Stegosaurus without a predator from the Jurassic is, of course, Allosaurus. Is my my 2007 model, which I think it's okay, but that's why I'm not sure. I think that this guy, it's a little too small for my liking in terms of being Allosaurus. So that's why I purchased another Allosaur model. It is, of course, Papo. Yeah, so and we get these guys a bit out of the way so we can compare the Papo Allosaur with the Schleich Brachiosaur. So I don't think this is entirely accurate considering Allosaurus wasn't entirely the biggest predator during the Morrison formation. That title would have gone to Torosaurus and Saurophaganax. Though then again, Saurophaganax is considered an Allosaurus, but I'm not going to get into that whole debate, honestly. But yeah, so move these guys a bit more so. And I think this is honestly displays some good presence. As you can see, the Brachiosaurus could be in a more or less defensive posture, trying to ward off the Allosaurus. And if my model, yeah, my Allosaur kind of has a bit of a warping issue. So try to, yeah, you can kind of see some presence of a big meat eater trying to take on, you know, bigger herbivores. So yeah, even though this is inaccurate, I think this still displays some pretty good display option. So can put the Allosaurus and Brachiosaurus together, so get more or less a comparison with the beasties from the Morrison formation. So Now, definitely an interesting variety of animals this formation would have had, with Brachiosaurus more or less being the biggest during the Morrison formation of the Jurassic. So, yeah, definitely, 100% accurate, no, but, I think these guys still look pretty good next to each other. So, okay, these guys along. So, for those who collect Jurassic World figures, let's compare to Blue. There's, of course, Blue from the Attack Pack Fallen Kingdom range. So, of course, not accurate, but this gives you a good idea how big this Brachiosaur model is when compared to an average Jurassic World figure. And like I said, I think if you wanted to be a little bit more budget friendly, a bit more size friendly when it comes to the sauropod, I think that this Brachiosaur model is acceptable. I know there's also the Papa one, and even though that model is definitely way bigger, it's definitely not as big when compared to the Mattel Brachiosaur. So maybe that one would do. Plus, that one is based off the Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus. But I think the Schleich model, and I think there's also the Safari Brachiosaurus that comes to mind. I think those two, and of course this model right here, would be a fairly acceptable Brachiosaurus if you want to be a little bit more size friendly and budget friendly. So yeah, so I think I think the scaling with this Schleich Brachiosaurus is pretty good, as nice hefty sauropod, though nothing too big or overwhelming to say the least. So yeah, so move Blue out of the sight. So what are my overall thoughts with the Schleich Brachiosaurus? Definitely a pretty good model. I know it won't really appeal to exactly everyone. Like I said, it's sort of a balance between being stylized and being accurate. But with someone like me, I don't mind that at all. And I think this Brachiosaurus in general commends some presence with at least trying to be a little bit accurate despite still being a bit more nostalgic in terms of design elements. But I still really enjoyed this model, and for being my first dinosaur model I started collecting way back in around 28. Was it 2018? Yeah, it was around 2018 when I started collecting dino models, as I also started to collect the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toy range. So, it was that particular time that, sparked my passion for dino collecting. So, yeah. So definitely have some nostalgic feels for this model, and overall, really still enjoy it despite what I just said. So yeah, really happy with this model. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and leave a like and a comment on whatever I just say. Maybe help me out with some scientific facts on on whatever each model I review, because like I probably said before, I'm not exactly too knowledgeable on scientific accuracies all the time. So a bit of a helping hand will definitely be appreciated. So anyway, so with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.